Okay, hi Colin. Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, I only saw on Twitter that you like posted some music there and also did a gave yourself your own challenge, right? Was it like 30 days or
Oh,
a
I've just
year
lost the
of
signal
tracks? What was it?
on you. Uh,
Oh, did we lose you? Or did I lose you?
yes, sorry. I think we had an internet drop out there for a moment, but I think it's back now.
Yeah, perfect. That's good.
You
Did
were
you
saying
hear
about
me?
Twitter.
Yes, about Twitter. I saw that you had a was it last year or the year before? You gave yourself a challenge to compose a certain amount of tracks in a certain amount of time.
Yes, yeah. So 400 and I have to check now. 465 days ago now, I think.
Uh
I
huh.
started I started my challenge to write some music every day and post it online.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, Although I've twisted it slightly in the last week,
Mm-hmm.
following some feedback that I got on
Okay.
how to improve my composing. So yeah, up to about day, I don't know, 460 or 459
Wow.
maybe. I was writing
Mm-hmm.
a new track each day, and since last Friday, I've started actually doing, let's say, a cover of some Hans Zimmer. So I'm
Mm.
taking a Hans Zimmer track and then going by ear to try and
Recreate
replicate
it.
it.
Ah,
Yeah,
nice.
in
Oh,
the
wow.
in the
But
door.
459 days. This is huge, man. And every day.
It's
That's
a few,
great.
yeah, yeah.
That's
I had to
awesome.
I had to come up with like a few techniques to make it happen, because obviously in this time also I was traveling a bunch
Mm-hmm.
for work.
Yes.
I had some social things to attend to as well.
Mm-hmm.
So over the course of that period, I like came up with new solutions to make it possible to do that. And there were some harder moments. I won't lie. There
I
was
can
some
imagine
tough
because
ones.
the thing is, I started it this year. This is just for production music, like very low key stuff.
Mhm.
But um, it's actually quite challenging to just sit down every day to. And I mean, the idea is probably for me at least is not that hard, but giving yourself a time frame and an appointment every day to actually do it, it's quite there's so much stuff that comes in between all of this. So yeah, congrats, man. That's really huge.
Thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
we'll definitely link something in the description for people to check out your tracks. Is this on
Awesome.
SoundCloud or where is it?
Yeah, so actually, the full thing's on SoundCloud. It has all of the tracks on there, and then on YouTube is, let's say, the better ones, starting from some
Hmm.
point. Because when I first started, there wasn't a convenient way for me to make videos for the music, and then
Hmm.
I can't even remember
AI
what day it was now.
and AI came along.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
awesome. Yeah.
I got Mid Journey, and then okay, I can now fairly easily make a picture every day.
Hmm.
And if I can
Yes.
have a picture, then I can have the Ken Burns effect in iMovie.
Right.
So I was able to like stick this on the back end of my daily composing.
Right.
Um, and then most days I was posting it to YouTube. Sometimes
Yes.
not if it was like particularly bad. And the last few days actually I haven't, because it's like the same track just going 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30
Ah.
seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So this
Hmm.
is just on the
Hmm.
SoundCloud, and then at the
Hmm.
end of this week I hope to finish this track, the Chevaliers de Sangreal, and then I will post a video with this
That's
full
awesome.
full one. Yeah.
Great. I mean, I will want to ask some follow up questions to this process, but I want to also like mention, isn't it great that this AI stuff came along, especially for this purpose?
Hmm.
Because first finding a good picture, I mean, there was Unsplash or it still is Unsplash or like Google search or whatever,
Hmm.
but having a picture that actually fits your track and has some like cinematic feel to it, and um yeah, I just love to hear that you just took what you have and make something out of it. And for us as composers, and to put something on YouTube, on YouTube is sometimes very it's boring because you don't have always this great like cinematic look to put something to watch, right? And Midjourney comes along and that's really helpful, I think. So yeah, it do you have specific prompts that you use to actually make it this far? How long? Because I think the search before took a long time. How is it with creating these pictures, these images?
So yeah, that in itself has been kind of interesting because when it first came out was quite different from what you could do now. So when it first came out, you had like stuff that was maybe in the direction of something. Like it could kind of have a feel. I remember, I think like one of the early, let's say, successful pictures that I had from that, in terms of it created something like good, was like a Cthulhu drawn by Van Gogh, and
Okay, yeah.
it was like it did look like a Cthulhu drawn by Van Gogh. But then as it's evolved, the prompts also kind of changed. So there was a phase where I could put in like even abstract concepts and words, and it would come out with something kind of interesting from that. And then now it got better in version 4, so it produces like, let's say, generally better images. But if you have something kind of abstract, there's a high chance it will just put this in as text. It won't make this connection. You'll just get some text in the picture. There's like some gobbledygook text that looks maybe kind of like that word, but doesn't really fit. And actually, most of the time, I'm generating the images first. So I have like a library of images that sometimes I sit down and just like spend some minutes, or if, I don't know, if I'm traveling or I have some downtime somewhere, I can just blast through and create some. And then I write my music independently, usually. And then after I've written it, I will go through all these images and try and find something that fits to what I've done.
Fits. Yes.
But generally, because I have like, I don't know, let's say certain aesthetics or things that I like, I have like some batch of like, let's say, epic images, some battle images. I have some calm ones. Actually, at some point, I knew that, okay, I don't have enough calm ones. I need to do some more like pretty picturesque stuff because I'm starting to write more picturesque music. There was one interesting thing though, because I had a comment from one of my friends the other day when we were talking about it, and they assumed it was the other way around, because when there was a phase of like everything in Midjourney was kind of like creepy and weird and distorted.
Yeah.
My music was kind of creepy and weird and distorted. And I don't know whether it's like there was some influence from that, or maybe I just like happened to follow along with the journey of my music. The same journey that Midjourney was going through at that point.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I would just assume the other way around as well. So like create music first, then create something for the music. But of course,
sometimes I do it. Sometimes,
yeah, sometimes.
But
because for us, it's easier to make music to something, right?
Yeah. So this depends a little bit on the approach and what I'm taking, because the way of like, let's say, making this every day happen is I started like with some first broad caveat, like it doesn't have to be good. So what I'm doing, I'm going to write it, I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to post it online. Whatever the state of it is at the end of the day, I'm going to do that. And there is behind it this idea that I wanted to be a better composer. That I wanted to and it's something actually for a long time that I've wanted to do. My background was in music, but for years I've been focused on the programming side, and doing this. And I had several attempts actually to try and like, let's say, get back into music and build some composing chops. Like every few years, I would buy some libraries. I would be like, right, this time I'm going to do it.
Yes.
And then I wouldn't do anything with it.
100%.
Yeah. And then finally, this is the one that, like, I know it clicked with me. The doing this and meaning that I had to finish it and had to do it day by day, because I'm a procrastinator and I still procrastinate. It's just that I just procrastinate each day now. And actually, that's one of the reasons why doing the other way around is hard for me. Like or doing it to the state of, let's say, designing the image to the music is hard, because normally I finish like very late, and I push right up to the very limit of when I can go, and then quickly like try and put the video together and throw it. But then from the other side, because I wanted to improve the composing skills, then it really varies how I want to compose. So if it's just the case of the first thing to build for me was, okay, I have some background in music. I understand some theory. I have some libraries. I can do stuff, but I don't finish my shit. I just don't get it done, or I don't start it. Right? I'm either not starting or I'm not finishing, or both in some combination. So the first thing about the everyday is every day I'm going to start and I'm going to finish. And the first thing was learning this and then building that comfort with, okay, I can go in really genuinely not knowing what I'm going to do every day. Most days I don't know. Some days maybe I've watched a YouTube tutorial and I'm like, okay, today I'm going to do this, or I've heard some piece of music and it's like, right, I want to do something in this style, or I bought a new instrument, which happens. So of course it's like, okay, today I'm going to use my new instrument that I bought. But I can go into that with like no safeguards or anything, and just okay, I'll sit down and something will happen, and I will be able to create something, and I'll come back. And now I've done it enough times, regularly and consistently, that it's fine. Right? I feel comfortable that I can say yes. I will sit down today and I will write about a minute of music, ranging from mediocre to slightly less mediocre most days, but also probably not something that is entirely awful.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I want to go back, like when you started. This was like then, yeah, more than 1.5 years ago, like a year and a couple of months, right? How did you like somehow check how you progressed? Like, are you listening back to your first track and compare to what changed, or what kind of learnings did you have from doing this every day?
Yeah, so generally I'm listening back to my music quite a lot. It's actually probably at the moment the music that I listen to the most. Is I just put the SoundCloud on, so it goes back however many days backwards in time to listen to that, and then occasionally I'll go back further and listen to the earlier stuff. Actually, it would be cool to make and some people have suggested to make this comparison, right? To show it, maybe even like make some long ass video that has the whole thing. The only thing that stops me is the time. It would take me some time to do it, and I didn't find the time to do that.
You would need to stop composing, which is counterintuitive.
Yeah, that does become a thing, right? Because there were also a couple of occasions during this time when, for example, I wanted to do an entry for the Spitfire scoring competition last summer, and that's not something that I can do in a day. Definitely not. Back then I couldn't do it, so I had to do that. And sometimes I would post this as an everyday, but sometimes I would be doing both. Or last autumn when I had a commission for doing a trailer, and I can't post that as my everyday, so I would do both. I would do some work on this, and then I would do some very simple everyday thing to maybe playing with the ideas, but not presenting this this music. So the time thing is a pressure, but I've got off topic. So yeah, so I think listening back to that music is really important, and especially because of this cycle of it, right? Because I do everything in one sitting, so usually like 2 or 3 hours a night, and I will go from blank page, write the music, and then at the end, maybe the last 20-30 minutes, I'll just mix it and put that. But this isn't like the best way to iterate on music. There's no iteration, right? So often I'll come back the next day and I will hear something and I'll be either like, oh, I thought that sounded good, but that really doesn't sound good. Or, oh, I thought that sounded really bad, but actually when I'm listening with fresh ears, it's not so it's not so problematic. Or start to have new ideas about it and like hearing it like, okay, actually this could be a foundation. And I keep saying I will go back and take some earlier music that I've written and expand it, but I didn't. Still to do. Yeah.
I mean, this is probably the hardest thing, to go back to something a year ago and try to get into the same mood again and expand or make it better. I think this is even harder than start something new. And this is why most of us have like these huge archives of unfinished music, because you have this idea, then you lose interest because it's getting hard to finish, and then it just stays there. So I totally understand. Doing something new is always exciting, right? And going back and like doing the boring work is, as it suggests, boring. Wow. And so I mean, there were definitely, and I can see this and I can and people that will listen to it will definitely hear this. There's a learning and a component for you that makes your work and your life better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But did it also help? Like, I mean, this wasn't the idea or it wasn't the main goal, but of course, if you do this for such a long time, there will be some interest from outside parties. And I'm interested to hear, did this lead to something in terms of paid work or collaborations or connections that you wouldn't have had before?
Yeah, I think it did, and it's worth to say because in that front, I have been working in games for a long time now, since 2006. So I have some history there. I have some connections there, and I think this gives me some step up or some advantage when it comes to then trying to pivot and do some other stuff. So my first my first paid work came through an ex-colleague who was working on this trailer, and their composer dropped out or wasn't available, and so he was able to propose me. But the reason that he was able to propose me because he'd been following me and seeing this stuff happen. And previously, I'd done something for him. He was a drone pilot, so he made some videos, and I wrote some music for one of his videos as an everyday. I think maybe it took me like a couple of days to do this one, and so I think this side of it helped. And the thing that I do notice about this is, honestly, people when they talk to me about it, when I tell them about this or they find out about it, they seem to think it's harder than it is because, and maybe it is, and I don't realize anymore that it's that hard. But after some time, and it didn't take that long, like maybe even like after a few weeks, it was just like, yes, this is what I do every day. I just do this every day, and I won't not do it. I will always do that. And it became such a thing that after some time, okay, I still procrastinate. I still, as I say, push it to the last minute, and I'm lazy about doing that. But I never had that. I never have that thing anymore of, oh, maybe I will do it tomorrow. It's like, no, I'll do it today. So when I was at my friend's wedding, and I hadn't done it early enough, I didn't do it before, so I have GarageBand on my phone. So I did some super shitty thing on GarageBand, but I did it and I posted it, and it's done. When I was at Unreal Fest last year, and we were having the social events after, so the meet and greets, like getting to know people, and these go quite late, so roll back in at 2 a.m. into the hotel room, and I was literally falling asleep at the keyboard, and like, oh, what did I write?
Awesome.
Even though it's like, no, I will get that done. And then after that point, then okay, it's not so bad. But it is impressive to people that you can do something and that you can show this this commitment. And I feel like myself, like also this confidence that I get from it, that if someone asks me to deliver something, 100% I can deliver something. Maybe it's not going to be great, but I can deliver something very fast. And then when we saw it in my first job, actually, with this trailer, I could turn stuff around very quickly from this, just because I'm not having to wait on some like inspiration or something magical. Already, I have the tools for sitting down and plowing ahead and getting some stuff. And so actually, I was the one like, give me some more feedback, give me something more that I can put in this. And okay, I have a business trip. It doesn't matter. I will have my laptop with me. I have it set up. I can do everything on my laptop that I can do on my home PC, more or less. So there's no problem with that. And I think this side of it, this consistency, this ability, this is important for people, right? This is
100%. Yeah, I mean, this is important for you, and it's also important. I mean, when people come to me and ask, what can I do? And then I look at their website and there's no music, or there's just 2 or 3 pieces of music. I'm like, maybe compose music first and then ask me what you do with it. Because, I mean, at least people that want to hire you or want to give you some work or whatever, or want to work with you on something, they want to see that you can actually produce music consistently in a certain amount of quality. I mean, quality is important, of course, but and this is I mean, you saw me on Twitter writing about this. This is like all about like getting consistency so you have actually something to show when someone asks you. So I think this is something very,
Mm-hmm.
very important about this. Yeah, and I think, yeah, and I find it actually great that this is not your main. This is just a side gig for you. This is just a
Yeah.
hobby, or at this point, I mean, it will probably change at some earlier than later. But what do you actually do?
So my main job is I'm an engineering director at CD Projekt
Hmm.
RED, and actually I was leading the audio code team there for the last almost 8 years now, seven
Wow,
and three
that's
quarter,
awesome.
let's say, years. So my whole career has been in audio and audio programming for games. So I've been,
Hmm.
let's say, around the music side of it, but just not composing professionally until now.
Hmm.
Um, and my intention is to let's say grow this career path on the side. I don't expect to like quickly change from my main career. This is also a very fulfilling uh,
Hmm.
career for me, and the stuff we're doing there is very exciting. Um, but yeah, I just want to do this this stuff as well. I'm greedy, I guess. I want to do it
No,
all.
I mean, it's always good to have something on the side. I think this is like a very wise and good decision you make. I mean, it's also very close related. Makes
Yeah,
total sense.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's really really good.
Yeah, I
And
did
so
manage to sneak in some music into Cyberpunk, so I have some like,
perfect.
so, not good stuff, not great stuff, just some little jingles
Awesome. Yes,
that needed done. Yeah.
I just had a conversation with Ross
Ah, yeah,
Treganza. I think.
Chuganza, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and he told me that he has like did like 150 tracks for the in game advertising stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Impressive, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and what kind of music did you sneak into it?
So it was something like this.
Mm-hmm.
So Russ was doing the tracks for the adverts, and Russ, by the way, is an old friend of mine, awesome guy, fantastic. We worked together in my
Yes, yes.
first job back in Free Radical Design on not so popular game called Haze. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm constantly trying to get collaborations with him because he's such a cool
Ah,
dude
nice.
and
Yeah.
really great music. Um, so yeah, I was doing something similar. He did the music for the TV adverts that you can see
Mm-hmm.
going around, but then we needed some like extra jingles just in the ambience for the world. So as you're walking through the streets, some uh, stuff that didn't have TV, but we wanted to have some little jingles of music,
Mm-hmm.
and
Nice.
it was more about having some additional quantity rather than
Mm-hmm.
very high quality. So the difference being
Yes.
that because this was background stuff and because it's not score and it's diegetic, like you can imagine that in a cyberpunk dystopia, maybe not all of the music is great. It's like if it
Yeah.
sounds kind of like cheesy or even just not that complex, it's fine. It's like padding that goes
Mm-hmm.
in the background for that. So yeah, so a couple of things I was able to do, and then the sound designers took these and then edited them and glitched them and made it sound really fitting and suitable for the game.
Nice. So I'm not a gamer, and I pitched for Cyberpunk back when it was as a composer,
Aha,
and
aha.
I came really high up, but I didn't make it. And I think they changed also. They Marcin, I think he wanted to do it himself anyway. So
Hmm.
it's some I don't know, but it doesn't matter. But I'm interested. I'm not very much into games,
Hmm.
and I composed a little bit of music for small games. And the approach, of course, is totally different, right? It's than for film or TV. Um, so what would you say is the main difference, and what is it that you have to learn differently or have to change if you want to go from here to there? For me, it's for example.
Hmm. So I think there's definitely differences. Also some similarities,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what game you're going for. Right. So in our kind of game, actually, we have some cinematic aesthetic. We want to have some things that were, let's say, on the same level or the same area maybe as
Mm-hmm.
music. But the big difference, of course, is this interactivity. So the fact that your music isn't just played beginning to end, but it's going to play some beginning and then it's going to loop for a while and then it's going to need to change and react to what's happening in the game, which is actually part of what I do. Is my main job will be building these
Mm-hmm.
systems that handle this interactivity from the
Mm-hmm.
music that the composers write. So as a composer for games, you really need to be aware of this style and the music you're writing is not, in most cases, not going to be played back just like beginning to end. There's situations where it happened, or maybe even for some games that's actually the style that they want. But generally, when we're talking about games, we're thinking, okay, how can I have some layers that will represent different intensity of things happening? How can I change from this moment in the music now has to change to something else that's happening in the game to react to what the player's done? Break down some of the elements of the music that normally would come together and be able to combine them back in real time in different ways. I think it helps a lot to like learn some of the tools around that. So the one we use is Wise, WWise, and this is quite common in the industry, and it's free to grab, and actually it's free for small games to use, even indie games now. And there's lots of tutorials online. So I think as a composer, you don't necessarily have to be like the ultimate master of that, but if you know how things plug into it, how you need to prepare your music so that it's going to, let's say, loop correctly, and then you can add a layer on, and you can talk to maybe the sound designers or the programmers or implementers on this should happen, and then this should happen, or what do you want to happen, and then here's all of the elements, and here's how you plug them together. It's a big help, I think. A big help.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what I like about this is like you approach the storytelling part of your music from a completely different angle, because different people will hear the music in a different state they are in the game, right? So it's that's actually quite interesting. I know I really sucked at like implementing the stuff in Wise when I had to do this. It's like it's a little bit over my head, and it's probably easy. It's probably simple to learn, but
there's a lot to it, right? And you can do something simple and Wise, or you can do something very complex and involved. And like the more complex you make it, the more, let's say, technical skill is required to assemble that and have it work, and then work out what's happening when it goes wrong, which is going to happen. So it does require like some hands-on stuff for the game, either technical sound designer or audio programmers to often to help with designing those, like, let's say, more complex systems, or someone who just has that experience with Wise and has used it for years and knows exactly like how to plug it together and put it together. But then it's a question of like how far do you want to go with it? If you want to do something simple, okay, you can do that. But if you want to do something like very dynamic, then there's some more to learn there.
Yeah. And how complex was it in Cyberpunk?
Yeah, it was pretty complex. Because
I can imagine.
Because in Cyberpunk we have we have many different layers of the music going on, and both diegetic and non-diegetic. So in the if we think of the score, then just with this we can have let's say the most important music would be quest music. So this is something that's strongly tied to the narrative, and even if it's dynamic here, we want to be able to use some of the same tools or some of the same concepts of telling the story, of narrating the story, as we would with linear media. It's not exactly the same, but we have that same connection with people, right? The same emotional intent or tool there. And then below this, maybe we have some areas in the game where there's a gang, and if you go to this gang, then there should be some combat of like, okay, intensity is rising, this gang's going to kick off, or also there can be a cyber psycho, which they have a different set of music, or there can be some other interesting areas that have some music. So we have to both have dynamic
and this all has to blend together somehow.
Yeah. So we have these different themes, let's say, of music, each of them which are dynamic, because if it's going to go from, for example, stealth to combat or something, those have to be dynamic. And then we have to understand, okay, we're in this area, so we would have the gang music, and it would be the stealth music for the gang, but at the moment the quest is doing this, and the quest is more important, so whatever this wants to do, we will just override this with the quest. So we have a series of priorities, and then some systems in code that we built to manage moving between these different layers of the music. And then on top of that, we have the diegetic music, which is music from the radio, which is in the cars, or the radios in the world. Some people doing like busking, but mostly this was like, let's say, a smaller element of animated stuff versus the radio system. And then just to complicate it further, the diegetic music obviously also can be part of the score. We have some transitions, let's say diegetic, non-diegetic transitions, so you can...
So from radio to cinematic or whatever.
Exactly.
Wow.
A good example would be in the beginning of the game, you're in a club. If you choose the corpo path, you're in a club.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a spoiler at this point. It's like a few years, okay.
No, I don't. Yeah. I put it in the description, some spoilers.
Yeah. And the club's playing the club music, and then at some point there's an event happening. Some guys come and kicks off. You basically have your cyberware deactivated, and you're really hurt. And at this point, we transition from the club music, this diegetic three-dimensional position music, into the non-diegetic score music with some element still of this club music played in. So we're synchronizing these two pieces of music and then blending through to this like kind of cinematic effect of that happening. Or maybe we want to perhaps have score music play through specific emitters in the world, or at some point you're like playing in a concert in a band, and so this has to be also managed. It's like diegetic because it's actually stuff that's happening in the world, and we treat it this way, but also it's like integral to the scene, and also it's treated as part of the scene and the interaction that's happening with the scene. Like, are you going to choose to sing at this part? Are you going to choose to move around the stage, or throw up some horns, or all of this?
Yes. It seems, I mean, this is hardly something that you can do alone, so there must be a team that you're leading then, right? It's probably a huge team, or how big is it?
Yeah, fairly big for games, I think. Even when I first started, it was rare that places had audio coders. I think the situation has improved. There are more audio coders around, but still not always. I was the first audio coder at CD Projekt, first dedicated audio coder there, and it's even rarer to have teams. There's a few companies that do. We had 5 audio programmers, like, let's say by the end of Cyberpunk, around like between 2022 to 2020 to 22, which is, let's say, the release period from the first release with the patches through to the Edge Runners update. This was a team of 5 plus one contractor as well on for audio programming. And these are programmers dedicated to the audio side. So that's a fairly big team for the industry. And the result is you can do a lot with it. Yeah.
Right, but this is not just music. This is also sound design. Like
all
audio,
all of the audio. So the music, the sound design, sound effects, sound design, interactive in the game, the voice overs. We also had an additional couple of programmers in the team who were more on the localization side. So we combined the audio and localization teams, which has some crossover in terms of like we're building a pipeline to take all of the recorded VOs and then process all of these VOs, normalize them, give some option for the sound designers to add special effects to them, and then reproduce these in game, which was a huge effort actually. For Cyberpunk, we had I think 11 VO languages, 88,000 lines in each language. So it was like close to 900,000 recorded lines of VO that we had to manage and put through the pipes. So it's like required some infrastructure to have this stuff, have this all there, and some complexities because we have a male and female player character. So depending on how the quest goes, or what the player has, some lines are available, or some of the lines are both what the player's saying and what the NPCs are saying. And because we localize in all these languages, this is like very different language per language. What needs to be different between the gendered lines, right? Because
yes,
in English it's different from Polish, different from German, different from Japanese, from Chinese. So we have to cover all of this, all of these cases.
Wow. I can only remember when I did this the first time and also the last time. I worked on the I'm Loving It campaign, and they did with the worldwide localization as well. Like all the song had to be in like all languages basically, because it was in 127 countries. So it was English. Like we had to find rappers and hip hop stars in every country, and then they actually had to like have a good voice, and also like, and then we have to translate it, and they had to write their own lines and stuff like that. So for me, this sounds. I only did like the middle European market back then, but still crazy, man.
Yeah,
That's
it's
insane.
a really deep and interesting topic itself,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why we say like localization rather than translation, because
Mm-hmm.
even like when you're choosing the voice actors, uh, language to language it varies a lot. Like we take it for granted probably that um, in most fantasy media at the moment that we have, like in contemporary times, like dwarves are Scottish effectively. Like dwarves have the Scottish
Okay, yeah.
accent. That's,
Lord of the Rings made it Scottish for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So we
or
have that,
something. I don't know.
and we have certain associations with certain, uh, especially British accents that
Mm-hmm.
apply to
Absolutely.
things. But this is very different in different languages, and it's something I didn't
Right.
consider until our localization team like mentioned it to me at one point. Pointed out that
Mm-hmm.
uh, we use accents in English in a way that other languages don't use accents. You can't do, you don't have the
Mm-hmm.
same association, the same thing in maybe Spanish of these characters having a different accent, of that meaning something like
Yes.
narratively the way it does for
Mm-hmm.
us. So you have to have people who really understand that that locale, that area of the world,
Right.
and what that means.
Yeah,
And when
that's
you
true.
have, I know a character who's like very clearly one type of character, and then in another country you have to find like the voice that will fit this character,
Right.
and that kind of person doesn't
Right.
exist in this, even in this culture maybe, or this country.
Yeah.
Then it can be tough.
I mean, I know it from German that some parts of Germany and their accents are used for clumsy characters, for example. I won't say any like specific area because I don't want to get any heat for that. But but this is just. I mean, I'm from Bavaria, so the Bavarian accent is more for these people, you know. Mhm. And then there's like, I don't know, in the north, these are more clumsy sometimes. I don't know. That doesn't really matter much. But this is, I would know for German, and I'm maybe for the UK or England or Scotland, Wales. I don't know. You can't understand these people, but or I can't sometimes. And then, especially in contrast to the American English, right? It's always like they're a little bit. So if they need to be wise or a little bit, they have this British accent. You know, it's quite interesting. But then you go to China,
Yeah,
no idea, right?
yeah,
No idea
it's
how
completely
it differs
different.
there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
they can be like completely different concepts of things of
right.
how to portray that. Um,
Yeah. So it's funny because I live in Mexico, and a local here told me he's coming from the town where I'm living, and he says they see when people come from outside of this town to the town because they walk differently.
oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why. He couldn't explain why, but he said all locals from the town here can see when someone's not from town. They see when they walk that they're not from here.
That's pretty
That's
interesting. Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. And then also, of course, you can see here the difference from Mexico City to here. How they speak is completely different.
Completely different. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's wow, that's interesting. Yeah. But I mean, you're obviously employed by this Project Red, right?
CD
But you
Projekt.
also have your entrepreneurial side with your music endeavors and all that. And I want to ask you, so what is probably the one thing as an entrepreneur, creative entrepreneur, that sets you apart from the others and has contributed most to the success so far? And yeah.
So uh, I think it's like it's a little bit hard to separate these things, right? Because
Hmm.
you kind of come as a package of that, and the thing that that I carry with me is this history of game dev, and this, like, let's say, a few prestigious titles on my back that that I can point to and involved with, of being around that music being created, of knowing that, but also knowing the people, having some connections, having built some relationships over years and years. I have some other project that's coming up that comes back from like the beginning of my career, of knowing someone. And when you've worked with someone and you've spent some time and you've been maybe a little bit in the trenches, and they know you and they can trust you, and they can vouch that you're a nice person, basically.
Yeah.
This stuff's really important. So
Mm-hmm.
there is stuff that's quite translatable, on top of like having some understanding of, especially of how to apply music in a interactive sense, in this sense, because even if I wasn't writing it, I was part of that process of implementing it and bringing it, and hopefully like absorbed some knowledge from the many talented people that I've had an opportunity to work with.
Yeah, I think this is a very, very true what you're saying, that it's being nice and having the foundation and being nice gets you a long way. I'm totally with you on that. So, and nice doesn't mean you have to take everything, but
No,
it just means the communication is good. And
yeah, exactly. It's like it can, like you say, it can definitely be taken the wrong way of like trying to please everyone all the time, and that, which isn't it. Basically, what we're getting to is be someone that other people want to work with, right? And whatever that means, and it can mean different things to different people. But if people want to work with you, that's a good way to get work.
It's probably the only way. In the end.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and some people, like, they just, I work with people, and some, they just always have this negative tone, and like, they do great work, honestly, but sometimes they just like, there's no optimism, and there's just no willingness to go just only a tick further than they needed to go. So yeah, I think all that's really, really true.
The attitude is really key, and it's one of like the important parts of my main job now, actually, as engineering director. Like my focus is still on the audio side, but also on the management of our tech teams. And in this, I'm working on our team values, on building the culture, on creating the good environment. And 100%, it is like vital to have team players. It is vital to have people who share those values that you have. If you want to be a company or a group of people or whatever, a team that wants to make the best thing in the world, whatever that might be, if you want to aspire to this to whatever standard, then everyone really has to buy into that, right? Everyone has to do that. Or if you want to be a team that is I don't know, super organized, and everything is like done by the letter, and everything is arranged perfectly, you need people who want to work this way. And if you want to be a team that's like chaotic and organic and natural, which is what I prefer also myself, but you need to also be, let's say, selective for that, and people need to be on board with, yeah, this is the way that we work, that we want to do things, and I can be effective in that environment. I can be part of what makes this successful.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I'm just reading a book. It's called Time's Up. It's like about subscription model businesses. It's quite interesting, and what the main thing they say is like culture, and culture includes so much, like from the impact that we're making outside of the work, to the internal culture and the culture we bring to the customer. So it's a key point, I think, in every. This is not only for teams as an employee. It doesn't matter. It's for your own company. When you have your own culture, then people work with you and are rather. They want to work with you more if they have the same approach to culture, right, and the same ideas, values. Yes.
There's some great stuff. Probably you know it, by Daniel Chalitza, who's Outlier Studios, and he's posted online their culture. Actually, their internal stuff. They just make it public. It's
Nice.
I definitely recommend checking it out. I had some great conversations
Yeah.
with him about it, and you can check the values. They put the values for their team, their onboarding, as well as some of the guides that they have for both like compositional skills, also how to do pictures, how they've done that stuff. They're super open about it, and you can see the
Nice.
success that they're having and that he's having
Mm-hmm.
by really focusing on creating this culture and
Mm-hmm.
even being open about it and saying this is what makes us good and what we're going to do. Definitely worth
Yeah.
check out.
That's awesome. Yeah, I will put this definitely in the description. And because that's very interesting to me too as well. So that's really, really cool. So I mean, I think as creatives and as entrepreneurs, we're always trying to look forward and see what our next goal is, and as soon as we and project our success also in the future, right? So we want to see something happening in 6 months or in a year. When we finish this album, or when we finished our next year of one track a day kind of thing, then we are successful, and then we get to the point where we are finding the new hot thing that we want to pursue as soon as we reach this goal. So, but I think sometimes it's good to look back and see what successes we had. And I want to ask you, what's your, when you look back on your journey and this crazy ride that you probably had, because all of us have this like ups and downs and all that stuff. How do you feel about this when you look back?
So I think I've been really lucky in my career, and luck is maybe also perhaps partially a synonym or components for having some privilege, that I was in like a good place, a good time, that when I was young that I had access to musical education. Actually, our region in Yorkshire, South Yorkshire, where I grew up, they had free music lessons for everyone. So this was brought to me at an early age, and then also partly an attitude of taking opportunities when they come and just diving in feet first served me very, very well. And as a result of these things, I had the chance to work on a few big games, and it's nice to have these successes behind you of some games that didn't do like as well, but things like GTA 5, worked on Red Dead Redemption, Witcher 3 now, Cyberpunk as well. Even though we had a rocky launch, I consider this as one of my highlights of the career, and especially firstly the things that we achieved in terms of making some of these things which were challenging and show some achievement, but especially when we think about how this relates to the gamers and then the feedback that we get from the gamers, and with all of these games. I've had experience with people, or we've seen letters from people who've written into our studio, or comments on Twitter.
Wow.
Of people who've enjoyed it, which is great, and it's always nice to hear this. But even that we start to see like the impact that games can have on people's lives. So on multiple occasions, we've had something from someone who said, even to the point, it's kind of how I even had to say, that they were contemplating suicide, and then they played a game, and for whatever reason, it like presented some idea to them, or it gave them some way to work through something, or to have a different experience, or to feel that there was something more, and they changed their mind. And this is mind blowing.
That's
right? This is like
100. Wow.
that you can have some part of an effect on someone's
literally
life.
life changing.
Literally life changing. Yeah. Literally.
Wow.
So this is I think like one of the most wonderful, beautiful things to have the honor or the privilege to be part of something that can do that. And then on a different side, I think now at this point of my career where I've like done a lot of doing stuff myself, and I now have built a team and some more focus on building teams and growing other people and building some environments, to see when these things start to take place, when someone joins my team, and I hear from them, this is a really cool team. I'm really enjoying being here. It feels really good. Everyone's really nice, and I can see them being active and like getting ignited, or that we've like created such an environment. Someone told me that when they first joined the company, like they were thinking, okay, I'll first just get the lay of the land and see what it's like. And then they said, okay, that was my plan, but I can't do it. I have to like do stuff and take ownership, because there's so much opportunity, there's so much empowerment that I can't sit on my hands. I have to jump in and to see
awesome.
someone like so activated and so encouraged and motivated. This is really cool, and yeah, I hope to leave like more and more of this behind. So.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this leads perfectly into my next question. What kind of like inheritance you leave behind, and have you thought about this? And is like, if you had to stop today, would this be the inheritance that you would have loved to leave behind?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because I don't spend a lot of time thinking about stopping. It's not something, and even though I know that at some point in the future that has to happen, I kind of like keep that out of my mind a little bit, and try not to think too much about this. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, I suppose.
Exactly.
But yeah, it for the things that I've had the opportunity to do, like I feel very grateful that I had a chance to work with those teams, work with the guys at Rockstar, to work with the CD Projekt teams, Free Radical Design, where I cut my teeth back in the day, and still like with Ross and Graham, in close contact with them, and the friends made there. So having a chance to make those games and to be part of those teams, to have touched some people's lives and had some ripples that go out in the world. If it had to stop now, it's like, okay, I could be happy that I've made some achievements, but yeah, it's stopping doesn't really occur to me to do it. It's like, what's next? What can we do more? Okay, so we've done that. Let's climb some more mountains. Let's reach for some new stars.
Yes, exactly. I mean, from what I can tell and what you told me just now, is like, I think you would be probably content if you had to stop. But of course, it's in our nature to achieve more and to go further and find something new and even influence even more people, right, with what you do. This is really, really cool. Yeah,
I do wonder sometimes about, maybe one day I will get through the backlog of games and shows and books and that's constantly piling up.
Yes. Wow, yeah. This is a lofty goal, for sure. So, I mean, you have a deep background in audio development and gaming in audio, and I was wondering if you had like some tips or some ideas of, I mean, maybe some people have misconceptions about what it means to be in game audio, and maybe you can lift some of them up for us. So how does it actually work?
So the most common misconceptions. Well, first off, generally people don't understand what I do, like the job of an audio programmer. I think it can be like a little opaque to people who like don't know like really how games are made, or like what's going on the inside, or how those teams work. So usually this takes some explanation of like what's involved in taking these elements and then presenting them interactively. Like how do you play them? How do you set these up in the game to actually attach the correct sound to play at the correct time when the correct thing happens in this, and all of the dynamic parts about that. So this is usually like, let's say, not well understood by the layperson, and as a result, usually the question will be, okay, so which part of the music did you write? for this game.
Oh gosh.
And
Yeah.
and there is a conception there generally, I think, of slightly out of balance in terms of the proportions of, let's say, composers to sound designers, especially. People think that maybe there's like one sound designer and an army of composers, and usually it's, I don't say like the inverse of this, that we always have an army of sound designers and very few composers, but more in this direction. Usually there are more
Yes.
sound designers than there are composers on the game. So yeah, I remember that there have been people who I spoke to who want to get into the industry, and when I told them this, it was like, okay, but if you want to get in, think about what you want to do. Like, what do you really want to do? Is it that you really want to make music? This is the hard path to go. There's really fierce competition, right? There's so many great composers. There's really fierce. So to dive straight in there is a tough path. Not impossible. And actually, games is, I think, one of the places for composers that one of the few places that offers like very steady work. So if you can get in a studio, which not all studios have dedicated composers, but if you can get this job, then this can be an option to, let's say, have something like a normal working life as a salaried employee versus other options that are there for composers. Not to put down those other options, but it's one of the places that you can have for that. Or is it just that you want to work in games and you want to do audio? In which case, maybe look at sound design as being a way to realize that creative ambition. Or if you really want to get in and you have some technical skills, then probably the most sought after position and one of the rarest is the audio programmer. And this is someone who can code, program, usually in C++, but might also be C# depending on the studio. If they're working in Unity, of C#, in Unreal or custom engines, normally C++. And you have an interest in audio. This is quite rare. And actually, I should have said it earlier. This is one of the reasons why I have my career, basically, because I am someone who can do this technical side, but I'm very passionate about the audio as well. And that's a rare enough combination that I had fantastic opportunities to go for. So have a think about what it is that you want to do, and then focus on that. And if you want to, for example, we were talking earlier about this interactive side. So if you want to get into games as a composer, then definitely work on like some of that technical side to be able to participate in that. It is possible to be a non-technical composer for the games, but it's like another level on top of there. Like we had Paul Leonard Morgan did some music for Cyberpunk. He's coming from the film side, so from Dread, which is fantastic. Let's say Cyberpunk genre film to bring in. But to come in at that angle, he comes in because he's already has some success and like proven track record on all of this, versus composers who maybe already have some technical skills and some understanding, some more like embedding into that that side of implementation and how it works in games and how those things come together.
Yeah. Have you been involved in like choosing composers or like people to bring on in the team as well, or is this a different department that does, or like, because I have a follow-up question to this, but yeah.
So almost completely this is done by Marcin Przybyłowicz, our music director, and also P.T. Adamczyk, who the composer for Cyberpunk, is involved in this. With one exception, which is Ross, because Ross, I was able to pull him in for the adverts music.
That's nice.
On there, again, we talked earlier about having this relationship, knowing what was there.
Of course, yeah.
We had a need. We had a gap. Actually, there was too much music to do. There's like 19 hours of music in Cyberpunk, which is huge, a huge amount. So there was the chance for me to be involved there. But yeah, I wouldn't like say that I'm the person who chooses composers.
Okay. But if you had to, I mean, if you were in this position and had to choose, because you said the technical skills. So if you're already a good composer, like maybe not a great composer, but a good composer, you would definitely have an advantage over if you had like wise skills or programming skills over someone, or would you do it in-house anyway? It doesn't really matter.
No, definitely, especially the wise skills helps, right?
Mhm.
And okay, I'm not the one who judges the let's say the tests, the music tests that candidates are doing to come in for the composing, but I think that the level is very high generally. So
Yeah. Mhm.
if you want to stand head and shoulders above other people in terms of like musical quality. And I imagine actually it's similar throughout the industry. Generally, when I look at
Yeah.
composers like out there on Twitter or on YouTube or in the world, it's like, my God, there's so many really, really great people out there.
Uh-huh.
So that's going to be like the permission to play will be to
Mhm.
be able to do this and to be able to write great music. And then on top of that, to have maybe some skills in Wise. I think programming's not so necessary for composers. At least I've not seen so many composers who like got into the coding. If they could, then definitely it's an access point. It's something that could help. For example, to go in as a coder and then talk to the composer and say, hey, here's my music that I make. I do something after building that relationship and establishing that, or to say, okay, here's my stuff. What should I do to get better? Which may be something a question that I've asked. So having access to such awesome composers and
Mhm.
industry legends, even.
Mhm.
So this can help, but more than anything, this thing that we all already mentioned is this attitude and this ability to be a team player, and like
Yeah.
this would really like turn the key for me to have this
Mhm.
meet someone, have this conversation, have this feeling of, okay, this is someone who's gonna really be on side in this, really going to help to create the great atmosphere, to create great environment. They're going to be
Yeah.
humble. They're going to be hungry, ambitious. They're going to be good with communication skills. They're going to be like really taking ownership, proactive. They're going to be like solving problems that they've not been asked to solve just because they're like reaching for stuff and trying to make things better. And they're going to be able to like manage
Mhm.
some chaos, some
Right.
unexpected situations, and it's going to be okay. It's
Which always occur, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
always there. Yeah. 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 That's amazing advice, I think, for everyone's watching and listening, because there's so much more than just great music to a great composer, I think, or to a composer that's sought after. Um, you can be the greatest composer but never have a job. So this, and I think these skills that you just mentioned, or these like interconnectedness, like human level skills, are very, very important. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much. This was like really, for me, especially not coming from games, very insightful to see what you guys do and what you do specifically. And yeah, again, congrats on your 459 and counting days
Yeah,
of
thank
composing.
you. Yeah.
That's really, really good. Um, what where should people lead to find more about you?
So, if anyone's interested about me, then I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet. Colin Walder, COL, either
Cool.
COL
Hmm.
Walder as two words or as one word. I use this in most
Hmm.
places. So I'm on YouTube as this, on Twitter as this. I do have a Twitch account. I stream my live composition every
Hmm.
Thursday. That's Colin Walder 01. There is another Colin Walder,
There's another one.
which is me, but I forgot how to get into this account, so I had to create a new one.
Oh my god, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh yeah, that's good. Okay, cool, man. That's really good. Thank you so
No, it
much
was a pleasure.
for letting us into your world. And yeah, we keep in touch. And I wish you all the best. And talk to you soon, man.
Yeah, likewise. Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.